even in class, right? Even in class, if you don't understand something, don't follow something, come and speak to faculty. It is much easier than sitting than later, trying to cram up everything before the exams. It's just easier this way.
So you've done your PhD and your masters at Stanford. So if you could elaborate more about that, and especially for the ones who are like aiming to pursue higher education.
Again, let me paraphrase that first, saying that all my information is dated because I worked for 12 years after my PhD. So I was in school the last time 13 years back. So with that in mind, it was a great experience. I think if you want, I think if it's possible, I think everybody should try to go to grad school. That's my personal opinion. That and doing grad school in a good college which has a mix of people from different parts of the world, even if it doesn't give you a huge depth in the subject, I think it gives you a great perspective. So even doing a 1.5 years master's course in a university which is highly ranked broadens your horizons and presents you with a lot of opportunities later in life. I think if you think about BITS, once you graduate after 4 years, some of you would be kind enough to come back and talk to us, and that time you'll see that one great advantage that BITS offers is its alumni network, right? And what you'll see during your next 3 years left on campus, and you've already experienced now, is that we make great friends when you're on campus. And many a times these friendships translate to work relationships, or they translate to career choices later. So what BITS provides you is this great peer network which you can use to further your career So same thing happens as you go to a different college or a different grad school, you get into that peer network, right? So going to university or college, definitely you want to go for its education, but you also want to go because you get a good peer network. So the better the college, the better the peer network. That's why people are trying head over heels to come to IITs, come to BITS, right? And the reason is because you want to get into that a bunch of people who think like you, who are smart like you, who challenge you at all times, and that's what makes you better than what you were before you entered the campus. So in that sense, I think definitely going to a grad school helps, and I think I think everybody should try to do that if your interests are in pursuing a career in engineering, right? I mean, if you want to go into finance or any other law or something, you pursue a grad school in that particular field. So I think that, so if you want to get into grad school, good grad school, it's very important that you maintain a high CG, and then obviously you couple it up with projects and stuff like that. But if grad school is your aim, I think you need to also start focusing by your second year. I think when you get to third year and start thinking about grad school, it might be a little late, because as I said, the earlier you know information, the better informed decision you can make. I don't know, in terms, were there any specific questions in terms of grad school that you had?
Not exactly, just to get an overview of how is it different here and there.
And the other thing is, undergraduate student education is a lot more spoon-fed. Grad school is not. And so grad school, definitely you'll see that if you think undergrad was a difficult ramp, grad will be an even steeper ramp, right? But that's because it's also 1.5 years. You finish it off and get out, and then get on with your life.
So, yeah. So you've been the author of more than 30 research papers and have many patents under your name. So, like, what is your process like when you when you're going to start a new research, or you're finding for areas? So how do you go about it? Like you said, research is something like a skill you need to develop.
So that is number one, right? So the first thing what I would say is, if you say research, right, and I'm sure a lot of people get bored when a professor says go and do a literature survey. But that literature survey is one of the most important aspects of research, because one, it gets you thinking about a particular field. It gets you up to speed with what has been done, right? What is research? Research is basically, there are two ways to think about research. One is that you have a question and you want to solve. I think before that, you need to figure out what the question is. Sometimes you just know a rough area, right? So how well you can form the question measures how well you can answer the question, right? So there should be a lot of time spent in figuring out what is the question, right? And that's where, even when you do a PhD, it comes a lot in handy, because you spend the first few years trying to figure out what is it. So you do literature survey because you want to figure out what's there out there, what are the questions that are unanswered, and then frame a question which you think you can provide an original answer for. So I think the first step in research definitely is literature survey and finding a question, right? Once that question comes in, the next one is when you start drawing upon your skills as an engineer, is the modeling aspect. So even before you prove something, right, you need to model. Once you have the question, then you start black boxing. So that is a skill which, as engineers, I think all of us should have. And I think hopefully all of you develop that during your time here, is the method of abstracting everything into inputs and outputs and relationships between the two. Once you get that down, then you can start building a model as to what is the question you're trying to answer. Once you break it down to sub questions, you break it down to simpler models, and then you go about proposing what a solution is, right? And that solution you proposed basically depends on how you modeled it. Once you've developed a mathematical model, then you can come up with a solution. You can say, okay, this particular black box, which can have a particular input-output relationship, will eventually maybe give you a solution, right? Once you've done that, then you start figuring out, okay, how do I make this, right? And then you get into the lab. If you need to build a particular component, you can build it. If you need to set up a board or something, that's when you do. So that's the process, I think, about how research goes. So again, that's why I think that, and if you go through this process, you'll see that every step of the way, there are a lot of hindrances, right? So even if you do literature survey, many a time you'll realize, and that's a very common feature. And this is more so for people who will eventually start doing PhDs, but it's a common thinking doing, man, everything has been done in this field. There's nothing left to be done, right? And then, I was just born late. If I was born in the 18th century, I would have invented the light bulb. Now I don't know what's there left to invent, right? But I think that's because, and that will happen all the time. So keeping your enthusiasm, keeping that grit, that no, I need to find. There are questions which are unanswered, and there is a lot of value for an engineer who can answer that particular question. So there is no dearth for work. There's no dearth for questions. So keeping at it is an important part. And I'm sure if some of you have read some of the blogs, if you read books about people who've gone through PhDs, they'll say, oh, PhD builds character. My advisor used to say that to me all the time. And that's because failure is the second part of a PhD thing. When you're doing research, you have to be prepared for failure. If you get it at the first attempt, it probably means you didn't give it your best. So
yeah. So moving this forward, could you elaborate a little bit on the projects that we get in college, like SOPs, DOPs, LOPs?
So So as you guys are aware, for the benefit of others, there are three kinds of projects a student can pursue when you're in BITS. There is an SOP, or a study-oriented project. There is an LOP and a DOP. LOP is lab-oriented and DOP is a design-oriented. Personally, what the general rule is, study-oriented project does a lot of paper reading and all that, whereas lab-oriented or design-oriented, you end up getting into the lab and actually building something by hand. So you'll see that the study-oriented project has a 266. It's a second level course, whereas the design and lab projects are a third level course, according to the BITS bulletin. But how you get a project, that's the tricky part. So definitely one thing is having a relationship with an advisor or with a faculty is definitely helps, right? Also, I think coming to class. So I might digress here a bit, but when you attend class, right, there is one thing that you just listen to what the professor is saying, you take meticulous notes and all that. But there should be a background process going on in your head trying to think about, okay, can I think about something more? Is this something which I want to learn more? Right? So you can approach a project from that side. Either you have an idea you want to work on, or you use that as a method to learn something new on a field where we don't have a class, for example, or in a subfield where you want to learn more about, right? So you can use either of that to get into, that should be your driving force to get a project. Also, what you'll see is, because of your humanities electives requirements and all that, you will not have a slot to take a project as a Dell in your second year. So the slots for you open up in your third year. That does not prevent you from working. You can always go and approach professors, talk to them and see if there is something informally that can be done. Actually, I recommend working with professors informally, because that kind of gets you FaceTime with that particular instructor, and also that helps you figure out, okay, if this is something I want to do, then I can pursue it in my subsequent semester, right? So I think working on informal projects, having a sort of interaction with the faculty, right, that will certainly help figure out, okay, what are the fields, like if you think about something which I work on, which is like semiconductors and technology, right? There isn't a lot of classwork on it. ED is probably the only class you'll do in it. But ED is a very simple class. So anything you want to learn beyond that, there's a lot more to be learned, a lot more to be understood. And so what I normally suggest, if somebody comes to me, secondary students come to me at the end of their 2-1 saying that, sir, I want to do something. I say, okay, go and read. There are a bunch of review papers. Go read them and figure out how this works, or go and learn a software, right? So again, as I said, the research is a long process. So don't expect that you pick a research project today, say August of 2020, you come in and say, I am picking a research project. December 2020, you'll have a paper. You might, if you're smart, but normally the average is that it takes a few months to actually start. As I said, right, you generate data, or even to figure out the question, it takes some time. So definitely, I think, especially if you're interested in research, or even if you want to explore, right? Not all of us want to go and do a PhD, but I definitely think this is a flexibility I think a lot of students must utilize to figure out if research is something you want to do. You can come out at the end of 3.5 years or 4 years of BITS and say that, no, I did a few projects, it was boring, I don't want to do research anymore. But that's a good learning to have, that you're not cut out for research in a particular field. I think all students must utilize, if possible, research and the opportunity to do those project courses. And generally, you'll see faculty are pretty open to discussions. I think a lot of my colleagues, I wouldn't be wrong if I say that as a faculty, for me, if students show interest, I'm more than happy. It's unfortunately the other way that I end up having cases where I have to motivate somebody, okay, please go do this.
Yeah, so we realized that in this conversation itself.
Yeah, but definitely I think you take one step, the faculty will take 5 steps. That I'm very sure about.
Okay, so I'd also like to ask, are SOPs about implementing a known concept, or is it like a research-based project that you find something new?
It's all dependent on your advisor. The rules are very broad for a project course definition per se. How you want to go about really depends on your advisor. But normally what happens is we also have something known as reading courses, right? And what are the reading courses are basically used by faculty if they want to teach a particular topic which is not a regular part of the course. So you have 7 or 8 people who are studying a particular topic, and then the faculty will assign book chapters, will assign papers and stuff like that, will have presentations. So I would say that the reading course is better suited for something you really want to learn new things about. But also don't be very hard on yourself saying that the research project has to come out with something new, right? You're an undergraduate. Some fields lend themselves to and again, I'm against measuring success in research with papers. There are people who do that. Unfortunately, universities do that also. But I think as a student, I think your idea has to be, one, did I have fun? I think if you're not having fun in research, don't do it, right? And secondly, have you learned something new? Is that, have you pushed the subject towards a destination which you think is useful for somebody else? Sometimes what happens is we run out of time. We don't have 5 years to finish a PhD. But even in that 1 year, suppose you've done something which has, maybe helped another PhD student on campus, or maybe set the path for somebody after you to take it up and push it forward, right? I think that's success in itself. So I think you need to think about what that project means for you. Definitely, if you get a publication, nothing like it, right? But don't have to always get that to consider it to be a successful project.
When should we do an informal project? Like, when's the best time to do it?
Again, my suggestion would be 2-2, because 2-2 will give you, 2-1 will give you an idea. So again, I have not spent a long time on campus. I've just spent 2 years, but my general tendency, what I see is that 2-1 is a rude shock for a lot of students, especially those entering our department. So in that sense, I think that, take your time to settle down. It is going to be a challenge from where you were in your first year to where you get into your second year. So I would say 2-2 is a good time to start. But for example, suppose you want to explore fields of circuit design, or you want to explore fields of signal processing. We don't have those classes in 2-1, right? So 2-1 will probably teach you. But again, there are faculty who are willing to take. Again, all this is very faculty dependent. So if you're able to convince faculty that you are interested, you can do it. There is nothing stopping. See, the project courses are very dependent on student-faculty interaction. So as long as you have a good interaction with somebody, I don't see there's anything stopping you. In fact, you'll also see some students continue to take it informally throughout the next semester also, right? It depends. Suppose you don't have a slot for an elective, or you want to take another class, right? As long as the faculty permits, you can continue to work on things informally. I mean, it's not in your best interest because you're not getting credits for it. So it doesn't make sense to do it. But if it's a topic you're really interested in, or if it's something you think that if I continue working on it for the next few months, I might get something useful. As long as your advisor is okay, you can continue doing that.
Okay, and going back to the research part a bit, like if I as a student want to get involved in some research that is going on in the campus or by the faculty, so like are SOPs the way you get involved, or is there a different
Project courses are the way to go. As I said, informally you can start, first go and read what the faculty is doing and just go talk to them. I think one thing you must realize is the earlier you treat faculty as your friends, the easier life will be for you on campus, right? Start talking to people. It doesn't hurt to go and talk to people. It just go to most of us are in office. Most of us have office hours. So when faculty is in office, you can just knock on the door, sir, do you have time? I wanted to discuss something with you. Or ma'am, do you have time? So I think the earlier you establish a conversation with the faculty, he or she will let you know what's the best way to go about it, right? Obviously, also you need to prove yourself. So like when I give informal projects, right, I also assess and see if the student has done something useful. If it turns out that the student just took the informal and really didn't do anything, it's a good learning for both parties, right? The student probably can realize that probably this field is not of interest to him, but it also is a good learning for me because I know that maybe the student is not interested. So good, I don't have to consider him for the next semester if he has to take a formal with me or whatever. I can give it to somebody else who might be more interested. So I think establish conversation. Don't wait. Nobody. But the other option is no faculty is going to come and ask you come and do a project with me. So if you want something, come forward, talk to people. And that's true about everything in BITS, by the way. Even in class, right? Even in class, if you don't understand something, don't follow something, come and speak to faculty. It is much easier than later, trying to cram up everything before the exams. just easier this way.
Yeah, so for sure. So could you tell us something about the new labs that are being built in the NAB?
So we have a few new labs which are planned for. We have a new microwave and RF lab which is going to be built there. We have a new microelectronics lab which is going to be built, which will allow you to make some new devices if you want and all that. We will also be enhancing our embedded system labs as we go there. So there will be a lot more boards available, a lot of IoT kits available. We will also be enhancing our reconfigurable computing lab. So most of our labs, unfortunately, right now what happens is, so one drawback or one pressure point on the EEE department is that we have to do a lot of our lab teaching and research in the same physical space. And so going to the NAB actually will help us because they are giving us larger rooms. So we can actually have PhD students working on projects simultaneously with classes running. So I see that even though the labs, some of our labs are named the same, I think they're going to have many more facilities and actually allow you to do a lot more work there. So if you think about the new labs, yes, there are two new labs planned for the new building, but most of our old labs are going to be enhanced. So you're going to have a lot more tools, you're going to have a lot more boards to work with.
Okay. So what's your vision for the department for the next 5 years on campus?
Well, if my vision I can dream, I want to be the best EEE department in the country.
Okay, where do you see it going? Like, where will it reach?
Vision, you asked me a vision, my vision is to be the best, right? I don't want to say that we will not reach there. Obviously, it's a lot of hard work on all our parts. And one thing which I think I personally believe in is that the department's strength is driven not only by faculty but by students to a large extent, right? It is the students who are the strength of the department. And it goes, so if students are satisfied with the department, they go out, they convince somebody else, okay, come and work with our department. Or they send their siblings or their friends, right? Okay, why don't you consider BITS Goa instead of somebody else? So I think students are our strength. So as long as this vision is your vision, we'll get there. But it's going to be a long struggle. I think the campus and the university is giving us a lot of help in terms of the amount of the new space that's coming up. We're also going to have students, we are having a steady batch of students coming in, we're increasing our PhD intake. So in all those senses, definitely we have the backing of the institute. But I think one thing lacking definitely, my personal take is I don't have the backing of the undergraduate batches. So that is something which we need to change. We need to, I think there is a lack of ownership, I believe, and I hope that we should all get there, that you guys should feel it as much as a department, as much as I feel about it, right? Unless the undergraduate batch does not feel that this department is there to help them, I don't see that happening.
So what do you think, like, I as a student or like we as students can do in this lockdown period to use it at our advantage in the field of electronics right now? Read.
Pick up magazines. There's IEEE Explorers. I don't know if you can access IEEE Explorer, unfortunately, from your home, but yeah. But I think reading you can. So coding is something you all should learn, right? And I say that that's something you should learn because that's a useful skill to have. You can also consider this as a career choice if you want, but for me as a EEE,
any language in particular?
You pick Python, R, anything you want. It's up to you. For me, see, I learned Python when after I finished my PhD, because at work I found it easier I used it mainly because I had like bunch of data files, around 50-60 data files, and I need to pull data and modulate the data. So I just learned it, and now I use it essentially for that. So those are the skills you should have. These are soft skills you should have when you want to do anything useful, right? But read, I think blogs, that the internet, obviously I'm sure you guys have your own filters, but read good blogs on the internet which talk about what's new, right? The more you read, like, so that's why it's a science magazine. So if you're on campus also, I would suggest you continue that, right? IEEE Explore, IEEE Spectrum, IEEE Circuits and Sensors, these are great magazines to keep reading, right? If not anything, they just, for those 10 minutes that you're reading an article, you are sitting in electronics. So it kind of gets your brain churning and figuring out, okay, what's this, why? And then many a times what happened, that'll push you into some other direction and say, okay, I'll go and read something more about this. So that's something definitely I would suggest. It doesn't hurt to pick up textbooks and just read them, just to figure out what's at this stage. At the end of your first year, since you haven't really gotten into the meat of the discipline, I think the more information you collect, the better it would be. So software, therefore, coding is something which I think you should all know. So definitely enhance your coding skills. If you think ML and AI is something you want to learn, continue learning. Learning something never hurts you, right? Even if you feel like you want to learn biology or you want to learn chemical engineering, it's not wrong. You'll be amazed that how much of cross-disciplinary stuff you can push from one to the other. Right? Solar cells, batteries, anything you feel like read. I think collecting information this is a good time for you, especially since you can't really go out of the house. So that would be my suggestion, that read as much as you can, and you should start learning how to draw connections. If I read 3 articles, I should be able to figure out, okay, what are the connections between these 3 articles, right? And then you should start to cross-connect different fields, different concepts across fields. So that happens only when you start reading more. So instead of, that's what I would suggest. Pick up technology magazines and read. There are a lot of faculty which offer lectures. There are, free lectures on YouTube also, right? It doesn't hurt to go and listen to them and or pick their brains, like how you're doing. For me, it doesn't hurt to go and pick somebody else's brain also and figure out as to what he or she feels about what to do.
Yeah, that's the plan actually. Yeah. So finally, to conclude, what is your expectation from our batch coming into the second year? Or anything that you'd like to tell us, any message that you have for us?
Just put your head down and get to it. I mean, as I said, I'm a Batesian. Like, really, we don't need to be told anything. We know what we're doing. I think keep an open mind. I think that's important. And my appeal as a professor of electrical engineering is that don't come in with preconceived notions that this is hard, this is tough. Nothing is hard. Certainly, the syllabus we have on campus is not hard at all. We don't create a bogeyman of our courses, don't create a bogeyman of all of us. We are not here to make your life hard, right? I think if you change your attitude, you'll realize that the courses are really not that difficult. It's what happens is and as I said, hopefully this semester I'll see a lot more interaction between students and faculty. I think that's something which has been missing, my personal opinion, and I think the more we have that, I think it'll help both of us, because once you establish that feedback loop, it'll help us design better classes and it'll also help you gain more from our classes. So definitely I'd strongly suggest that your batch improve communication between faculty and yourselves. Come and I am approachable. You can come and talk to me anytime you want. That I can say personally. But come and have that feedback loop. You are here only for 3 years more. If you decide to continue for 4 years and if you don't do an early grad, so I would say that it's a very short time. You want to get maximum out of it, right? The more you pick our brain, the more you'll get out. Otherwise, you'll get my standard spiel. You know what? I'll come prepared with something, I'll come and talk, and that's about it. A good student is the one who continuously challenges his teacher. So, and for that, you have to ensure that you have done all the hard, you have also done work, right? Don't just come and, needle a person just because you find it, fun, right? you have to gain more from the classes than I can push into it. I mean, that's the only, otherwise this, you're wasting your time, and you know, you've put in a lot of money and resources to spend to come here, and you're spending the prime of your life in a place like this. You want to get the maximum out of it, and it's all in your hands. So the more you guys work towards it, the more you'll get. I can assure you, from our side, we will do all we can to help. As I said, you take one step, we take 5 steps.
All right.